the voice of Alabama politics, with your host, Bill Brett. Now, the #1 political show in Alabama, The V.
Coming to you from Lee County, where we're sitting on day 6 of the criminal trial of Mike Hubbard. I'm Bill Britt.
I'm Susan Britt.
Reporting for The V and an Alabama political reporter. Susan, today's testimony was up and down, but overall it was a very bad day for Mike Hubbard.
It was a very bad day. There were a string of witnesses, and the overwhelming evidence was showing that, again, Hubbard was getting money for personal favors. He was getting plans for being speaker. It was a pretty damning day for him.
Well, I tell you, everyone was excited about Governor Bentley appearing. He was the first witness of the day, and it was just a big zero. All he did was confirm that Mike met with him as speaker, right?
It's all hullabaloo about what was going to happen with Governor Bentley. He was the star witness, blah, blah, blah. All he did was confirm that Mike Hubbard was in these meetings about commercial jet and others as he thought, the Speaker of the House.
And Baxley's argument to sort of rebut that was, well, how would you know who he is? I mean, it was sort of like...
Would you know if he was a husband or a son or a father?
Yeah.
And, he could have just been one of those in the room.
Right, but everyone knew he was the speaker. The governor said, I thought he was the speaker when he was talking to us about these economic development deals.
I believe there were 4.
Yeah, looking for state money to be involved. He was operating as the speaker. But the star witness of the day was Dax Swadek, lobbyist extraordinaire in the Hubbard world. Hubbard's closest lobbying friend, Dax, who has made millions and millions of dollars because Mike is the speaker, came out and threw him slapped under the bus.
He really, really did today. He threw him slap under the bus. I think somebody said there wasn't much room left under the bus after Dax got through.
No, there wasn't much room. He was asked about the events that happened where they found out that Hubbard had a contract with the American Pharmacy Cooperative, Inc. He said they wanted to drop that contract immediately.
They did. In fact, they did drop that contract immediately. Tim Howe, according to Dax Swadek, was tasked that minute with going and finding Farrell Patrick in the State House and firing him on the spot, to be followed up with the letter that we saw later.
That's right, because Dax said they decided there were real problems with their involvement in this, and he wanted out of it. He also said that they warned the speaker not to vote for it.
They did?
I mean, Dax is his closest lobbying friend. They warned him. He still voted for it. They told him he could have real serious problems. He still voted for it.
He still voted for it.
Now, anything else? But we've got one more big thing that Dax did today.
Go ahead.
Okay. Dax Swadek, a lobbyist, was asked by Mike Hubbard to give him $150,000 as an investor against Craftmaster, for Craftmaster. Dax Swadek caught wind of it. He went to Hubbard's staff, and he said he didn't want to even be asked. But when they said, well, what would you tell Speaker Hubbard if he asked you to invest that $150,000? What did he say, Susan?
Not no, but hell no.
That's what he said. Not no, but hell no. So, Speaker Hubbard did ask his friend, Dax Swadek, a lobbyist, and what did he tell him?
He told him no, that he thought it would probably be illegal. And he didn't want, they would have ethics problem with it probably, and so he didn't want to get involved.
He said, he told Hubbard, he said, under the ethics rules, as I understand them, it's illegal for you to ask me for a thing of value, and it's illegal for me to accept a thing of value. And I mean, I tell you, Dax Swadek was just like Josh Blades on the stand. He told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And Baxley couldn't rattle him.
He could not rattle him. Absolutely. He tried every which way he could, but he could not rattle him. He was very on point. I'm sure he understood the consequences of his testimony, and he still came forward and did the right thing.
He did. Next up was Greg Pouncey. Greg Mr. Pouncey has had a long career with the Department of Education. He came on and testified that Edgenuity did, in fact, make a presentation to the department. They also got money from the department that went to the school districts and then back to Edgenuity, that's the distance learning company. But we also learned something else that we didn't know from Mr. Pouncey, and that is Edgenuity had a lobbyist, Farrell Patrick. We did know that. But Farrell Patrick told Greg Pouncey that who else was working for Edgenuity?
I forget.
Speaker Mike Hubbard.
Oh, yeah.
So Speaker Hubbard was working for Edgenuity, and the chief of staff of the Department of Education knew all about it.
Yes, he did.
Amazing. The next person who testified was Steve French. He had an immunity agreement with the state that he was to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, under penalty of being indicted for lobbying the state house without a license, without being registered.
Well, yeah, and also he was in the revolving door period.
Right.
When he did
Steve French, a former senator,
met with Marsh and others.
met with Marsh, Senator Marsh, met with Senator Pittman, met with several other senators, and he was lobbying them. They found out about this and talked to him, and he was a hostile witness. He decided that he was going to try to spin his testimony to help Mike, which infuriated Matt Hart, and Matt Hart brought up the fact that he had an immunity agreement, and it certainly looked like he was breaking.
Oh, he didn't just bring it up. After we got back from lunch, he put it up on the screen and read it to him.
Yeah.
And said it also covered the quid pro quo problems that he was going to have in the Hubbard situation. And I got to tell you, Steve French, he was about to cry when he got off that stand.
He did.
Because I think he thinks that immunity agreement is in real danger.
Right. I mean, and Hart asked him, he says, Mike Hubbard's your friend, right? He said, yes. He said, you want to help your friend? And he said, I want to help all my friends. And that's what he tried to do. And we learned something out about Mr. French that we did not know. Mr. French had a contract with the same people that Hubbard did.
APCI?
American Pharmacy Cooperative Inc. They were paying him not $10,000 a month. They just paid him a flat
$80,000. Wish I could get a gig like that.
Great job, Steve French. He's out of office. He's getting $80,000 to lobby for APCI. We don't know for who else, but he was not a registered lobbyist, and he was doing some of this in between the window of when he could and could not lobby for a fee. The last person up today was Will Brook, investment banker from Birmingham with Harvard Corporation Management, who has $4 billion in assets. Will Brook admitted that he helped Hubbard.
He did.
He admitted that the biggest part of his testimony was that he said that he was concerned that Speaker Hubbard would be forced to take a position with a company or take money from companies and be compromised as Speaker.
He did. And Matt Hart put up those emails that we've seen where Speaker Hubbard would bring up the Boys and the Girls Club about his wife and putting the funds back in, and at the same time say, by the way, have you heard any business for me? Or the immigration for the BCA, and by the way, have you heard anything on business for me? Or charter schools, and by the way, have you talked to anybody about me getting a job? That was repeated over and over and over in front of the jury
Yeah,
today.
and I noticed another thing that Hubbard did there that's not in his other emails. Will Brook, a very nice man, the deacon, an elder in his church, and all that. Hubbard would bring up God.
And what God wanted him to do, and that God would give him the path, and he doesn't do that in the other emails.
No, he doesn't do that in the emails to Bob Riley or some of these other more saucy emails that we hear. So Will Brook said he knew he was plagued. He was trying to sell him on himself and that type of thing. But, I talked to several reporters, several people that were just sitting around, and they said, there's no reasonable doubt here.
No, but do you remember that Brooke tried to change his testimony apparently right there toward the end because Matt Hart was actually reading his grand jury testimony, or he was reading his part of it and having Brooke read his responses actually before the grand jury. And they seemed to differ just a little bit from what he was testifying in court.
That softening we've been warned about.
Yeah, he said they kept trying to say, well, Baxley kept trying to say, well, they were friends, blah, blah, blah. But apparently when he was before the grand jury and in front of Matt Hart for the first time, he said that he was kind of thrown into the relationship with Mike Hubbard because of their business acquaintances.
And their political ties.
And
that was it.
It's not that they had never eaten at each other's house, they didn't hang out together, they didn't go to lunch together, not that kind of relationship in the grand jury testimony.
Right. And so Baxley tried to make it like this is big friends, big friends, big friends, and it really didn't.
I kind of thought they were going to elementary school.
Well, I
Didn't you?
thought he was going to give him some sugar.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, anyway. Well, who's up tomorrow, Susan?
Let's see. They were kind of quiet about it today,
Yeah,
so
they're trying to keep
we all kind of had, the reporters had to kind of pull together in the end there. We look like we got Rob Burton, Jimmy Brain, who's been here for 2 days already, possibly Greg Wren. There was some discussion about whether they were going to put him on or not. Trey Davis, Minda, Riley Campbell, Billy Canary, and there is a mystery guest in there somewhere
Right.
that's supposed to testify tomorrow. And if they don't get through with the testimony, they're asking the judge to restrain her from leaving the state.
Right.
So she'll be available on Friday should they
We
need
have
her.
no idea who that is. I'd tell you another interesting thing that we learned just minutes ago is that the prosecution thinks they will wrap up their case Friday.
Yes, they do. They might even wrap it up tomorrow, but they told the judge that they weren't sure that they could. They're going to have, based on the stuff that they had today, with Pouncey and Will Brook and those guys, they were going to have to recalculate who they were calling as witnesses, and it may bleed over into Friday. So they couldn't promise that they were going to wrap up on Thursday or even on Friday, but it should be this
The
week.
state has put on a very efficient case, very detailed case, and this judge is strict. I mean, if he says 9 o'clock, what does he mean, Susan?
He means 8:58.
Yeah.
If he says 10-minute break, you better be there in 9.
That's right.
Otherwise, you're locked out. You're not getting in. Period.
It's a strictly run court the way it should be. Judge Walker's doing a great job. Right now, I don't see how Hubbard walks out of this court.
I don't either. And he's really, Judge Walker's really also doing a very good job of tamping down the antics that are they're trying to pull. But I think he's doing a real good job, and I just wish it wasn't so hot in there.
Oh man, it's blistering hot.
It's blistering hot in that room.
Well, anyway, that's our report for today, day 6 of the Mike Hubbard criminal trial. I'm Bill Britt,
I'm Susan Britt.
reporting for APR and the V.
We'll be back with you tomorrow.